4 gram. The papaya with masses between 812 gram and 882 gram will be exported overseas, while papaya that with 812 gram or less will be sold at the local market. Find the probability that the papaya chosen at random to be exported overseas. The mean given is 814 and the standard deviation is 24. So I find the probability between 812 and 882. So I use 812 minus the mean and divide by standard deviation, and 882 minus mean and divide by standard deviation. So I find the z-score is negative 1.167 and 1.75. So I use 1 to minus the z-score that is negative 1.167 and bigger than 1.75. The final answer is 0.8383. Then B. The number of papayas which are not exported overseas and not sold in the local market if the orchard produces 2,800 papayas. I find the probability of the papaya is more than 882. Then I use 882 minus the mean and divide by standard deviation. Then I find the z-score is 1.75. The probability of papayas which are not exported overseas and not sold in the local market is 0.0401. So I use the probability times the total number of papayas. So I get the number is 100. So the number of papaya which are not exported overseas and not sold in the local market is 100.
That is normally distributed with a mean of 210 and a standard deviation of 12. Find the score if x equal to 216. Before we answer the question, list out the information that the question have already give us. So we list down that the mean is equal to 210 and then mean is equal to 12. To find the z-score, we use the formula x minus mean divided by standard deviation. So that z equal to 216 minus 210 divide 12, and then we get the answer. The answer is 0.5. B. Find x if the z-score is negative 1.8. Use the same formula, but we get the information is we need to find the x. The question gives us z-score equal to negative 1.8. So x minus 210 divided by 12 equal to negative 1.8. So x equal to 188.4. That's all.
The question states that a continuous random variable x is normally distributed and it is symmetrical at x equals to 45. If x is standardized to have a standard normal distribution, it is found that x equal to 60 is standardized to z equals to 1.5. So state the mean and the standard deviation of this normal distribution. So first I draw a z-score graph first, and then I label out The question state that the x is normally distributed and it is symmetrical at x45, which means the 45 should be the mean. And then I apply the formula to get z score, which is x minus mean over standard deviation. Then I sub all the value inside the equation that to find out the standard deviation, which is 10. So the mean is 45 and standard deviation is 10.
D represented by the shaded region is 0.34515 and find the value of k. The shaded region is the probability of shaded region is 0.3415, so we need to find the k. From the 0 to the right side of the graph is equal to 0.5. The probability is 0.5. So we must minus the so we need to minus the probability of the shaded regions. We need to minus the probability of shaded region, which is 0.3415 to find the k. And then first we need to convert the 3415 into the z first. So convert to z because 0.5 is not probability. So after converted, we need to use the 0.5 minus the 0.409, and the answer come out is k, which is 0.091. Thank you, teacher.
We get to know Pm equals to z smaller than 0.35 equals to 0.14. According to Buku-Sheffield, 0.35 equals to 0.3632. So since the graph distribution is on the center, that means one that got two answers. So we must use 1 minus 0.5124 minus 0.3632 equals to 0.1244. That's all.
Distribute with a mean of 12 and a variance of 4. Find A. The z score if x is equal to 14.2. First, we list down the data given. Mean is equal to 12 and the variance is equal to 4. Now, I find the standard deviation, which is square root the 4, and I get 2. So I find the z score if x equal to 14.2. I use the formula z equal to x minus mean over the standard deviation is z equal to 14.2 minus 12 over 2 is z equal to 1.1. B. Probability 11 less than 4 less than x and x less than 13.5. I find first I draw the I write it first, and I equal to x 11 minus 12 over 2 less than z less than 13.5 minus 12 equal to 2. Then the next step is p negative 0.5 less than z and less than 0.75 and I draw the graph at the right. Next step is 1 minus t probability z less than 0.5 and minus probability z more than 0.75. And I use a Bugusi field and 0.5 I get is 0.3085 and 0.75 is 0.2266. So I use 1 minus 0.3085 minus 0.2266 and I get the answer is 0.4649. That's all.
And a standard deviation of standard deviation given px more than 0.69 equal to 0.5178. Find the value of standard deviation. First, I write the question. Then I find the z-score. Convert to z-score. So it's P7 more than 0.69 minus 0.75 over standard deviation equal to 0.5178. Then I minus it. So it's negative 0.06 over standard deviation. Then the 0.5178 I press the calculator. Then is 0.045 is the answer, but the standard deviation cannot be the negative, so the z-score is negative. So the 0.045 is 1 to plus negative. So the answer is 7.333. Thank you, teacher.
If P bracket M smaller than Z smaller than 0.35 equals to 0.5124, find probability of Z smaller than M. So this diagram here, this shaded area is 0.5124, and then I find this part which is Z bigger than 0.35, and I use the calculator to calculate, and the lower I put 0.35 and the upper limit I will put 5, so the answer turns out to be 0.36316906622, and I round off it and it becomes to 0.3632. Then I would like to find this part. So since the probability is equals to 1, I will use 1 minus 0.3632 and then minus 0.5124, and lastly the answer I get is 0.1244. Thank you. A mean of 50 marks and a standard deviation of 10 marks. In the test, pupils who obtain 70 marks and above are categorized as excellent. Find the number of pupils in that category. Mean equal 50, standard deviation equal 10. Then find the probability x more than 70. Then use 70 minus 50 divided by 10. Then the z-score is 2. The final answer of the probability is 0.02275. Then use the 0.02275 times 200 equal 5. Given that 60% of pupils pass the test, calculate the minimum score to pass. Find the probability x more than m equal 0.6. Then m minus 50 over 10 equal 0.6. Then from the Buku cipher, find the probability of 1 minus 0.6 equals 0.4. Then from the Buku cipher, find the z-score of 0.4. Then the z-score is negative 0.253. Then m minus 50 over 10 equal negative 0.253. m minus 50 equal negative 2.53. m equal 47.47. Then the final answer is 47.
First of all, the question say probability x larger than 80 equals to 0.0113. So I let the x equals to the z-score, and I use the formula to find it. So probability x minus mean over standard deviation larger than 80 minus mean over standard deviation equals to 0.0113. Since the area shaded is shaded to the right, so I use the calculator to find the z-score. Because the area of the calculator is always shaded to the left, so I need to use 1 minus 0.0113 to find out the z-score, which is 2.280. And I let the 80 minus mean over standard deviation equals to 2.280. So I let the 80 minus mean equals to 2.280 times standard deviation as the equation 1. Next, the question says probability x smaller than 30 equals to 0.0287. And I can see from the normal distribution graph, the shaded region is shaded to the left. So I put the 0.0287 into the calculator. Then I find the z-score equals to negative 1.900. So I let the t minus mean over standard deviation equals to negative 1.900. And I let the mean equals to negative 1.900 times standard deviation plus 30 as the equation 2. Then I substitute the equation 2 into the equation 1, and which is the mean into the equation 1, and I get 80 minus 1.900 times standard deviation plus 30 equals to 2.280 times standard deviation. And I get 80 plus 30 equals to 2.280 times standard deviation plus 1.900 times standard deviation. Then I get 50 equals to 2.280 times standard deviation plus 1.900 times standard deviation. And I get 50 equals to 4.18 times standard deviation. And finally, I get the standard deviation equals to 50 over 4.18, and I get the value of standard deviation is 11.962. And the last step is I find the value of mean by using the equation 2. So I let mean equals to 1.900 times 11.962 plus 30, and finally I get the answer for mean is 52.73. That's all of my presentation. Thank you.
Continue
continuous random variable x has a normal distribution with a mean of 15 and a variance, and p bracket x smaller 16.2 is equal to 0.7654, find the value of standard deviation. So the question given the mean is equal to 15, and we need to find the value of standard deviation. So we need to standardize the x to z, that is become p bracket z smaller than 16.2 minus 15 over standard deviation equal to 0.7654. Because the value of 0.7654 is bigger than 0.5, so we cannot use the Boozy field to find the value of 16.2 minus 15 of over standard deviation. So we need to use the 1 minus probability of z bigger than 1.2 over standard deviation equal to 0.7654. And then, so actually the 1 minus probability of z bigger than 1.2 over standard deviation is equal to probability of z smaller than 16.2 minus 15 over standard deviation. Then we need to find the value of 1.2 over standard deviation. So we can use the Boozy field, and then after that I found that the value is equal to 0.724. So finally the value of standard deviation is equal to 1.6574. That's all.
Okay, wait, I have to stop